people expect you to know what you want and to be able to state it. The less you know, the more susceptible you become to exploitation. As for your income, you need to be aware that there are a lot of people working hard to get your music published, and they also need to be paid. The profit you make has to go towards the people who make your success possible by promoting you. In order to earn more, you have to work at becoming more successful. It's the same with any career. As for women, a woman has a right to refuse any kind of sexualisation. Just as before, a musician has to know what they want from their record company and make that absolutely clear before they sign anything. It is the record company's job to promote your music and get as many people interested as possible. And if you're beautiful and confident, you can use these assets to promote your art. There is absolutely nothing wrong with that. A woman has a right to do that as well. It doesn't take away from the music itself. A woman's beauty and attitude will grab the public's eye, and then once you have their attention, you can let the music do the talking. Bearing this in mind, as I said before, this is merely a suggested option. There are many incredibly successful female musicians who opt against using their sexuality as a marketing tool. According to Forbes, Taylor Swift was the second highest paid woman in music in 2012 at $57 million, only $1 million less than the top earner, Britney Spears.
I feel that your use of the word beautiful in this context is a perfect example of the constructs and the hegemonic understanding that society encourages that everyone should feel. So, and is an accurate representation of capitalism as a whole. It's the monetarily sound ideal that is being put as the forefront of the importances in people's mind, rather than the creative control and the intelligence that a musician can put into their work. So, take for example the music video Blurred Lines featuring Robin Thicke. The women in there portrayed as being vulnerable, sexually submissive, like not unclothed, as opposed to the sexually aggressive counterparts. It could be argued, as you said, that there are artists who manage to escape from this standard, but the society still dictates that they have to be of a certain standard, or to societies, the supposed way that we are intended to think, for this to come across as fair. And thereby the creative process being stifled on account of the monetary value being the biggest gain.
But then I would say with that, you have to think about your audience as a musician. If that's what we feel for, whatever market you're trying to sell your music to dictates the image that you have to have, in a way, because we have to give what the market wants. And now we will come together as a marketing team with you as an artist and discuss the best way to position you for success. Because at the end of the day, we can't fake or lie that we're not trying to make money. We're trying to create an industry that sustains itself. And for that to happen, it has to make sense from an accounting point of view. It has to make money. So if your audience wants to see naked women, that's what we're going to give them. Simple as that.
Right, so we've got less than a minute. Did you guys want to summarise each side? Point from each side.
We'll hear what they think.
I would argue against Tanya's point that if you're going for a market which wants women to be viewed as submissive and meant to be dominating them, then that is just an example of the negativity of the market there. That's not something to be encouraged, it's a really, really negative thing.
Yeah, the very idea that should be the central aspect of where the creative control goes. The idea that capitalism has a good effect on how the system works, but the way that it's been put across is that it's not anything to the artist's understanding that matters. It's more about the artist taking some people and then milk them from what they're worth and try to take advantage of as much money as they can muster.
Okay, that's been 10 minutes.
Yes, well, I think the point that Carly raised, for me, it summarizes exactly what today's industry gives, the opportunity gives for current or upcoming artists. There's so much information out there and so much examples of other artists who've come in with the business savvy head. You have to empower yourself as an artist, because the way business works, if you're ignorant about something, someone is out there to exploit you. I'm not saying all record labels want to exploit an artist, but if you make it easy for them to do that, they will take that point, because business people love to make the profit, they love to make money, and if you make it easy for us to get money from you, we will do it. But examples of artists like Adele show us that for her, it's about her art. It's not about her image. It's not about anything else. So if, as an artist as well, if you guys make great music, we won't need to worry about how you look or how to sell anything else other than the music. So it's, again, an opportunity for artists themselves to make sure they invest in building a great product for their audience, rather than relying on other things like your personal life or, scandals or anything like that. So it's an opportunity for you artists to bring on the table something worth.
Okay, thanks, folks. I have some questions. Does it matter if I go first?
You feel free.
Right, okay, so for the pro team, I have some questions. First of all, as a group, you started talking about capitalism, but then you automatically started to get pulled towards the gender question. So I actually think that whilst capitalism and the music industry was the wider context, actually what you were doing was focusing on gender. And I think you needed to have kind of foregrounded that in your initial question, okay? Because what you did do is go through the fairly effective debate, because you didn't actually state this in your question. It felt like you were kind of going elsewhere, okay? So, a number of things. I have an issue with stating that capitalism is there purely for business in terms of the financial distribution. That is, in itself is problematic, because why should the heads of the record labels be the ones that are garnering the most amount of money, and the artists are the ones that come away with the least, when they're the ones effectively doing all the work? So I can see why you've got a Marxist approach here. I would also suggest that whilst you are suggesting about advertising to your main demographic, there are more than one demographics.
Yeah, but then
Do you see what I mean?
the question is, if your music appeals to a certain audience and we are trying to capture that core audience for you.
But you're making an
focus on
assumption.
that.
But you're making an assumption here that men are very one-dimensional and can only be advertised to by naked women.
Oh no, that was an answer to the question Connor
Okay.
raised. But
All I'm suggesting here is that this is. I think it was fairly effectively discussed, but I think that it's problematic to assume that there's only going through one demographic that brings in money.
and
You see what I mean?
we don't agree with that. That's
Okay.
why we spoke of people like Adele as well.
But that's to say that she isn't a construct, but she is a construct. Adele is absolutely a construct, because if you look at Dusty Springfield and you look at Adele, you can see there's a kind of a real template taken from one for the other. So, for the against, I want to know why the X Factor is being used as an example, and I would also question the idea of where you said that that sex sells. Sex doesn't sell, women sell.
Yeah, it was more to kind of the idea that's put forward that sex sells. I was trying to.
If sex sells, then we'd be seeing weddings everywhere.
My point wasn't that sex sells. Again, my point was that it's the idea that it's put forward that sex sells, and the idea behind it is that's what it engenders. The media engenders into people's minds. That's the only thing that men want, and that women feel that they should perform to those standards.
That's better. There you go.
Yeah.
Well, the big video does suggest that he has a large dick, though. I'm just saying, you're not allowed to show it, but you can kind of infer that maybe he has.
Yeah,
Just a thought.
the idea from the X Factor as well, it wasn't just to sort of highlight the actual show, it was more towards showing the actual process that a musician will go through, how they may be exploited, because obviously, as Yoshi said, if a musician is not prepared to go into a boardroom and sign that contract, then they potentially will be signing away a lot of their rights to their own music.
So is that actually a point where you guys agree then? Is that a point because of that? Is that a point where both sides agree?
It's an agreement. It is an agreement. That's why I sort of brought it up, because for a normal musician, they may need to pay for an entertainment lawyer to actually run through the contract with them. That's why I brought that scenario up.
Okay. So do you feel then as musicians that the X Factor does nothing more than circumvent a lot of hard work?
I think it's a cop-out.
I think it's a cop out,
Yeah.
okay. Do you want to counter that?
I don't know, I think that the X Factor simplifies for today's artists, the process you have to go, or you had to go before to get signed. I mean, then you had to send your CDs or demos to, God knows, 300 different labels. But then now, you go to a show, 12 months later, you could have a record deal. It's almost like putting it in it's like you have a year to try and make it, and if you can make it onto X Factor, you I think increase your chances of becoming a star if that's what you're chasing. But before, you had, the odds were always going to be against you then.
Okay, so to question that, how many artists do you know that have actually made it through X Factor and are surviving, flourishing right now in the industry?
Well, there's Leona Lewis, JLS, One Direction, Cher Lloyd.
But
In America, there's Kelly Clarkson, who 10 years later, she still has a career. I mean, the opportunities there is, like, I think like Carly said, how you have to work at your craft and becoming a success. We can only help you distribute and market, but beyond that, part of it is also what you're doing to maintain that level of success.
I would argue with what you said about it being kind of condensed model of the original model of sending away demos and stuff. I think it's completely different to that, mainly because it's televised and it's purely there for entertainment purposes. Nobody sees somebody sending demos over and over again, and it's about this person's got a story that we can sell. People in the public are catching on to them, and it's completely about the money. They sing covers. It's not about creativity. I think it's a completely different model, and you can't compare it to.
No, but then we had
demos
a
away.
model where it was about creativity and it didn't work. I think people
did
love
work.
the stories that they can. No, Fame Academy has stopped. Why has it stopped?
No, I don't mean that. I mean the original, like sending demos to record labels. We got so many fantastic artists out of that.
But then those artists came out saying they were being exploited or whatever. So I think with X Factor for me, we have the opportunity as young aspirational musicians to see what it takes to become a successful artist. X Factor gives you the idea of building your own core fan base as you go along. So when you release that project, it is assured to sell. Like it is assured you will have a market. So we actually help you create a market for yourself.
But it's maybe sure to sell one song and then nothing ever again. Just disappear off the radar.
And to add to that, the market is created for you by the people who are meant to be your backing. Simon Cowell has on numerous occasions been reported, and this is just an example of how systems like these work. He's been reported to have played small instruments on the back of the songs and produced them entirely. They have little to no creative control on the matter. They're just a pretty face or a marketing tool that can be adopted and dried up. Okay.
May I, off the back of that, and something I think you also mentioned at the beginning is that capitalism narrows the market down, and the X Factor seems perhaps an example of that. But isn't there kind of a positive in that, you know, particularly in an era where everyone can make music and upload it and put it out in the public domain, that actually having an industry that acts as a funnel or a filter, and indeed a market where what is successful and what is not successful is decided by that market, by a free market. Is that not a good thing?
As an artist as well, I think for me it's the giving free music for free aspect of it is not good. Because ultimately, where will we make our money as musicians? You have to now depend on being invited to festivals if your music is that incredible, or if you have that, ready to buy your music, the ticket or whatever. But the idea that the internet, like having iTunes and people like that, means we can now make our music available to a wider audience, not necessarily having to be signed to a label. And I think that's where it's good. But this new age of anti-capitalism, anti-the record label, let's just give our music for free, I think there's a misconception there. That's where we are selling ourselves short as artists. Because we do work a lot, and to create the music, there's so much money that goes into buying our instruments, the recording studio time that and we're not getting that money back if we give music for free. Yeah.
Okay.
I just have another question, but I can't remember what it was, so yes.
Okay, thank you all very much. Great stuff. Group 2, Eli, Craig, Ian, Joe, Kellen.
Sorry, I
No,
That's why I'm like, yeah.
Sorry, I meant to mention not your name.
Guys, if you're not using the computer, do you want me to turn the screen off? Because it's kind of in your eyes quite a lot, isn't it?